Alright guys, welcome to part number 4, I think is the one that we're up to, of the Breath of the Wild Runes series. We're going to be continuing developing Cryonis in this one here, so we're carrying on from the last one. In the last one we had the ability to generate a simulation pillar, just like that follows the reticle, and it'll destroy it if we get out of range. In this one, what we're going to do is we're going to create the ability to actually spawn a pillar, a real pillar, at that location of the simulation. So here is just a list of stuff in the Word document that I knocked up of things that we need to create. So this is what we're going to be doing today. In order to create our pillar on the click, we need to do a line trace from our rune camera to get the position that we're aiming at. We'll leave space for conditions after that line trace because today we just want to test it to make sure that we can actually spawn a pillar at the location. But later on we'll need to add conditions such as like, are we on water? Is there space for the pillar? Do we have too many pillars, and etc, etc. So we'll leave space for that because we'll do that later. After we've done the line trace, we're going to spawn a pillar at the location of the hit, and we're going to scale it up from 0 to whatever scale is the scale that we set. We're going to save a reference to that pillar. We're going to count how many pillars that we've got. We're going to create a destroy pillar function, and then we're going to destroy our oldest pillar if the number of pillars that we've got is greater than 3. So we can only have 3 pillars at a time, and they'll auto destroy after that. So let's crack into it. Middle mouse button is what we use to create the simulation, so that's switching to the reticle view and aiming. What we're going to do is we're going to add a right mouse event, and when we right mouse, what we're going to do is we are going to spawn an actual pillar at the location of that simulation. So the first thing that we need to do though, when we input right mouse, is we need to check that we're actually aiming. So if we go into our set cam to rune cam macro, we're just going to add a new boolean down here, which is going to be called is aiming, just like that, is aiming, and we're going to drag that in, and we're going to set that to true when we've set our camera to our rune camera. And then if we go to the set the camera to the third person macro, we're going to add that is aiming boolean in here as well, and we're going to be setting that to false in here. Let me just check that I did that to true. Did I do that to true? Yeah, I did. Okay, and we're going to default this to false, because when you enter the game, you're not in your rune camera. Okay, beautiful. So when you hit your right mouse, we're going to have a branch. The first thing that we're going to check is, are we aiming? If we're not aiming, don't do anything. If we are aiming, then what we're going to do is we're going to have a custom, oops, just ignore that, you can go away. Right click, oh my god, again? Come on. Right click, add a custom event down there, and this is going to be called launch Cryonis, like that. Later on, when we have our right mouse thing, and we're checking if we're aiming, we'll have a switch on integer or something rather here, and basically this will have a bunch of pins, and depending on which room we have selected, it'll be launch stasis, launch Cryonis, launch magnesis, etc, etc. But just for now, while we're setting up Cryonis, off of true, we're just going to say launch Cryonis, just so we can get this out of the way, and then we'll worry about the switching and all of that later. So when we launch Cryonis, the first thing that we want to do is we want to do a line trace to get the position of where we're going to be spawning the pillar. So if you go into your manage simulation pillar function that we built last time, we can just shamelessly rip all of this off and copy that down here just like that. So this is basically just a line trace from our rune camera of reticle range, whatever we've set that to forwards, and that's just going to return whichever hit, whatever it hits basically. Now if there is a hit, let's add a reroute node. Type in RER to just shortcut that and add a reroute node. And we're just going to comment that, and we're just going to type in do can spawn pillar. So this is where we're going to do all our checks later. Things such as is this hit on water? Is there room for this pillar to spawn? Etc, etc. Okay, now once we've done that, because we'll do that later, we'll just actually spawn the pillar now. So let's say spawn actor from class. Spawn transform, we're going to say make transform. The rotation and the scale is fine just as it is, but the impact point is going to be the location. So wherever that we're aiming is going to be where we're going to spawn that pillar. Oh my god, you go back. There we go. Now, once we've spawned that pillar, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to call our scale animation. Oops, we need to put our pillar in here. So Cryonis pillar is what we're going to be spawning. Then we're going to say scale up from water. We're going to call our scale up from water function so that it has its animation. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say add array, just like that. And we're going to promote this array to a variable, and this is going to be called current Cryonis pillars ref. And in this one here this is where we're going to save all the references to our current pillars so that we can destroy them later if we want to or whatever. So let's just drag that into our Cryonis tab to keep everything together. And after we've added that to that array, actually, you know what? Before we add that to that array, let's just put this up here. So we're going to have our can spawn pillar checks. After we've done that, we're going to check how many pillars we've actually already spawned. So we're going to have a branch here, like this. We're going to grab in our current Cryonis pillars ref, and we're going to get the length of that array. And then what we're going to do is we're going to check if that length is greater than or equal to the cap for how many pillars we're allowed to have. So let's promote that to a variable and call this Cryonis pillars cap. And if you compile and save that, we can default that to 3. So we can have 3 pillars at once and hook that up to the condition there. And then we can comment all of this and say too many pillars is what we're going to call that. Too many pillars. So if we do have too many pillars, which will be off of true, let's just move all of that over for a sec. What we're going to do is we are going to grab our pillars reference array, and we are going to say get copy, and we are going to first check if it's valid. So we'll say if is valid, just to avoid errors and things, if it for whatever reason doesn't exist. If the pillar at index 0, which will be the very first pillar that would have spawned, if that is valid, then we're going to destroy that actor like that. And actually what we might do is we might just collapse this to a macro really quick. So let's just highlight that and collapse that to a macro. And we're going to call this destroy pillar and resize array. Very specific. So this is checking if it's valid. If it is valid, before we destroy it, let's just spawn a sound as well to indicate that we've destroyed it. So let's say spawn sound at location. The location of that sound is going to be get actor location of the actor that we're destroying, just like that. And the sound is just going to be, let's just use the default explosion sound for now. Bang, just like that. So we'll spawn a sound and then we'll destroy it, and then we will finish our macro, just like that. And let's put up not valid up into the finishing, just like that. But before we finish it, actually, something that we'll also need to do is we'll need to remove index. I think is what we want. No, we don't want that one. We want our Cryonis pillar array. So we're going to say remove index. And the reason that we're doing this, let me just hook that up into there, and then I'll double click that for a reroute node and then hook that into there like that. And before I explain why we're doing that, let's just hook up the index into here as well, and the index of this one into here too, and call that index like that. And so basically what we've got now is we have a macro which will destroy a pillar of whatever index we give it, and it'll resize the array of our pillar array. So what's going to happen is once it destroys that actor, it's going to remove the index that that actor was also at, and so everything else in the array will shuffle back down. So when we've got our destroy pillar and resize array, if we've got too many pillars, we're destroying the pillar that's at index 0, so that'll be the earliest pillar that's been spawned, and then it's going to resize that array, so now a new pillar, the next newest one, will now be moved down into 0. Hopefully that made sense. If it doesn't, sorry, that's the best I can do right now. My brain feels like it's about to explode. So I'm just going to move the Cryonis pillar cap into the Cryonis tab that we've got going there. Where are we at? Have we got too many pillars? If we do, destroy the first pillar. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new pillar. If we don't have too many pillars, so if we've just got a normal amount of pillars, we're just going to skip that destroying step just like that. Okay. And I might even collapse this to a macro as well. I'm just going to collapse that like that, and this is going to be called spawn pillar at location and save reference in array. There we go. Come on. Beautiful. If you wanted to tidy that up as well, you could double click this and just drag that underneath like that. Just like that. Alright, let me just check my document to see if we've got everything out of the way. So, we're doing a line trace. We've left space for conditions that we'll add in later. We're spawning a pillar at the location of the hit, and we've set up the scale animation. We're calling the animation. We're saving a reference to that pillar into the array that we created. We're counting the current pillars with that length function that we had, where we created a destroy pillar function that takes in an index and then destroys that pillar and resizes the array. And we also have the functionality to destroy the oldest pillar if there is more than 3 pillars. So that should be everything. Yeah, let's give that a test, shall we? So if we jump in here, middle mouse, we've got our simulation going like that. Right click, boom, there we go. We've got a pillar, got another pillar, got another pillar, and if I add a fourth, sorry, there we go, destroyed the first. And if I add another one, destroys that one, and they're destroying. Beautiful. And if I'm not in aiming mode and I right click, nothing happens. And what if I right click out of range? Nothing, because there's no hit. Beautiful. Now you can see that these all spawn up and do retarded stuff right now, and that's because we don't have the conditions set yet to check if they're on the water or to check if there's room. But the next thing that we'll do is, like, for example, where that simulation is right now, that's overlapping other stuff, so that will be an invalid point and it won't spawn. Same with these ones up there, and we only want them to spawn on water, so we'll do all that probably in the next video. So I think that's it for this one. I'm going to leave that one there. Let me know if you have any questions about all of this, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.